Imagine this. A video plays, and you watch your own son being beaten. But the real horror? Your wife is standing right there, laughing, telling the abuser his dad's too weak to do anything. That's the moment my world shattered. The moment I knew I had to become a monster myself to protect my son. For 5 years, my life had been the relentless hum of an oil rig. Out on the Poseidon 7, high above the Gulf of Mexico, the wind smelled of salt and crude. It was a familiar scent, one I'd breathed for hundreds of days, keeping my head clear whether a tropical storm hit or a piece of equipment failed at 3 in the morning. At 35, I'd built a reputation as the guy who held things together when they went sideways. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what was about to hit my world. It was 7 p.m. back home, and my 8-year-old son, Liam, should have been finishing dinner. My satellite phone buzzed, a video call from home. The connection was grainy, but Liam's face appeared on the screen. Immediately, my gut twisted. Something was off. His smile was forced, his eyes darting to the side. "Hey, champ, how was school?" I asked, trying to sound normal. "Fine," he mumbled, his voice tiny. "Just fine," I pressed. "What about that science project you were so excited about?" He shrugged. "It's okay, Dad. Mom says I need to go." My instincts, sharpened by years of managing dangerous situations, flared. "Where's your mom?" I asked. "She's busy." "I gotta go, Dad. Love you." The call ended abruptly, leaving me staring at a blank screen and a growing sense of dread. I scrolled through my contacts to Vivian Hancock, our neighbor. She was a retired school teacher in her 60s, sharp as a tack, and always looked out for Liam when I was away. "Everything okay with Liam?" I texted. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then reappeared. "Call me when you can. It's important." My jaw tightened. I had 2 more days on this rotation, 2 more days before my scheduled flight home. I called Vivian immediately, finding a quiet corner of the platform away from the constant thrum of machinery. "Austin," Vivian answered, her voice cautious. "I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but there's been a man around your house a lot lately. When Darlene's there with Liam." My blood ran cold. "What kind of man?" "He's over most afternoons now. Sometimes overnight." "Austin, I don't like the way he acts with Liam." The boy seemed scared. My hand gripped the phone. My marriage to Darlene had been strained for the past year. The distance, the resentment about my job. But I convinced myself we could work through it. "For Liam, have you seen anything specific?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay level despite the anger coiling in my chest. "Not exactly, but maybe I should keep a closer eye on things." "Please, Vivian," I pleaded. "If anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately. I don't care what time it is." Back in my utilitarian quarters, photos of Liam covered one wall. Liam as a toddler, his first day of school. Liam holding up a fish we'd caught. There was one photo of Darlene from our wedding 7 years ago. She'd been 23, vibrant, full of dreams. I just gotten this offshore job, triple my previous salary. The plan was simple. 5 years on the rig, save aggressively, then a desk job. A house, siblings for Liam, the life we'd always wanted. But somewhere Darlene had stopped believing. The resentment crept in, call by call. "Must be nice to escape to the middle of the ocean while I deal with everything here," she'd say. I tried to explain that 15-hour days in one of the most dangerous jobs in America wasn't an escape, but the words never landed. I tried to quit twice. Both times, Darlene talked me out of it. "We need the money," she'd say. "Just 1 more year." Staring at that wedding photo now, I wondered if I'd been a fool. My phone buzzed again. A text from Colin Sampson, an old friend from our Marine Corps days. "You coming to Mitchell's wedding next month?" He's finally making an honest woman out of Jody. I managed a small smile despite my worry. Mitchell Base was another former Marine, now a private investigator. "Wouldn't miss it," I texted back. I didn't mention my concerns about home. Not yet. But something told me I might need my brothers sooner than a wedding. 48 more hours. Everything would be fine, I told myself. I'd get home, talk to Darlene, figure out what was really going on. But deep in my gut, I knew something was very, very wrong. 7 years earlier, I met Darlene McKee at a friend's barbecue. She was studying communications, working part-time. I was 28, she was 21. When she laughed at my terrible jokes, I was hooked. Our courtship was fast. 6 months later, I proposed. She said yes before I even finished asking. We were married 3 months after that, Colin and Mitchell as my groomsmen. Liam came 2 years later, and for a while, everything was perfect. I worked long hours, but was home every night. Small apartment, tight finances, but we were happy. Liam was our world. Then my construction company went under. The economy tanked, projects dried up. Suddenly, I was scrambling. That's when Mitchell mentioned the offshore oil jobs. Pays double what you're making now, he'd said over beers. 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. Tough schedule, but the money's incredible. I discussed it with Darlene that night. She was worried about bills, about Liam's future, about the stack of past due notices. 3 weeks? She'd asked. That's a long time. Then I'm home for 3 weeks straight, full time with you and Liam. And we can actually save, Dar. Buy a house. Build something real. She'd agreed. It was supposed to be temporary. Present day. Darlene stood in her kitchen, watching Johnny Hatfield raid her refrigerator like he owned the place. 6 weeks ago, she'd met him at the grocery store where she worked as a shift supervisor. He'd been charming, attentive, exciting. Everything Austin hadn't been in years. The affair started with coffee, then lunch, then afternoons at his apartment while Liam was at school. Darlene told herself she deserved this. Deserved to feel wanted, to not be alone, to have someone who was actually there. She hadn't planned for Johnny to insert himself so completely into her life. But he had a way of making himself indispensable. He'd pick Liam up from school when she worked late. He'd come over for dinner. He'd started staying overnight, even when Austin was just a week away from coming home. Liam's being a little brat again, Johnny said, cracking open a beer. Kid needs to learn some respect. Darlene felt a flicker of unease. Liam had been different lately, quieter, more withdrawn. He told her twice that he didn't like Johnny, that Johnny was mean when she wasn't around. But Johnny said Liam was just adjusting. That boy's needed a firm hand. He's 8 years old, Johnny. He's just adjusting. He's a spoiled brat because Austin's gone all the time, and you let him get away with everything. Johnny took a long drink. Kid called me a name yesterday. I'm not putting up with that in my own house. It's not your house, Darlene said quietly. Johnny's expression darkened. It was a look she'd been seeing more often lately. What? Nothing. Maybe you should go easy on him. Johnny crossed the room, backing her against the counter, not touching her, but close enough that she could smell the beer on his breath. You got something to say to me, Darlene? No. I'm sorry. He smiled then, the darkness vanishing. That's my girl. Now, what's for dinner? Upstairs, Liam sat on his bed. Homework spread around him, but untouched. He could hear their voices. Mom, soft and pleading. Johnny's, loud and demanding. He missed his dad with an ache that made his chest hurt. Liam had tried to tell his mom about the things Johnny said when she wasn't around. About how Johnny had grabbed his arm, so hard it bruised. About how Johnny had shoved him into a wall for leaving his backpack in the living room. But Mom always had an excuse. He's just being playful. You probably misunderstood. Give him a chance. For more days until Dad came home. Liam counted them like a prisoner marking days on a cell wall. 2 days later, the incident. I was in the middle of a safety briefing when my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Personal calls during work hours were discouraged, but something made me open it. It was a video file from Vivian Hancock's number. My blood went cold as I watched. The footage was taken from Vivian's second-floor window, looking down into my backyard. Liam was there, holding a baseball. A man I didn't recognize, Johnny, was yelling, his face twisted with rage. I told you to put that shit away. Johnny's voice was clear, even through the window. You think you can just ignore me? I was just playing, Liam said, his voice small and scared. What happened next, I would replay in my mind for the rest of my life. Johnny grabbed Liam by the shirt, lifting the boy off his feet, then backhanded him across the face. Liam crumpled to the ground, sobbing. And then, Darlene appeared in the frame, walking out the back door. I waited for her to intervene, to protect our son. Instead, she laughed. Maybe that'll teach you to listen, she said, her voice carrying the slight slur of afternoon drinking. Your dad's too weak to do anything about it anyway. Johnny yanked Liam up by his hair. Call him. Call your daddy. Let him hear you cry. He's 1,000 miles away, ain't he? What's he gonna do? Through tears, Liam pulled out his phone. The basic flip phone I'd given him for emergencies. His small fingers fumbled with the buttons. My phone rang. I answered immediately, stepping away from the briefing room. Dad. Liam's voice was broken, hitching with sobs. Dad, if you're still with me, still reeling from that moment, make sure to hit subscribe. More unbelievable stories and moments of raw truth are coming. Son, I said, my voice eerily calm despite the rage burning through my veins. Daddy's pulling up now with friends. You hear me? I'm coming home right now. I heard Johnny laugh in the background. Yeah, right. Daddy's gonna save you from 1,000 miles away. Put him on, I said quietly. Dad, please put him on the phone, Liam. Now. There was shuffling. Then Johnny's voice, cocky and amused. Yeah, you got about 6 hours, I said. I'd start running. Johnny laughed. Oh, I'm real scared. What are you gonna do, sailor boy? You put your hands on my son. You'll find out exactly what I'm going to do. I ended the call and immediately dialed my supervisor. Family emergency. I need emergency evac now. Austin, the next helicopter isn't until radio the Coast Guard if you have to. My son is in danger. I'm leaving this platform in the next 30 minutes. One way or another. My supervisor heard something in my voice. Something cold and final. I'll make the calls. Next, I dialed Colin. I need you and Mitchell in Houston tonight. My address. And Colin, bring what we talked about keeping for emergencies. What's happening? He asked, his voice suddenly sharp. Someone hurt my son, and I want to make sure it never happens again. We'll be there. I packed my duffel in under 3 minutes. As the emergency helicopter lifted off, I watched the Gulf recede below me. I've been calm on the phone with Liam because that's what my son needed. But inside, Austin Cahill was a man transformed. I'd spent 8 years in the Marines before the oil rigs. 3 tours, 2 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. I'd learned to stay cool under fire, to make split-second decisions, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. I'd left that life behind when Liam was born, wanted to be a father, not a soldier. But Johnny Hatfield had made a critical mistake. He'd threatened Austin Cahill's family. And now, the man I'd buried beneath responsibility and civilian life was rising to the surface. The helicopter pilot glanced at me. You okay, sir? I stared straight ahead, my jaw set. I will be. The charter flight from the Gulf Coast to Houston took 3 hours. I spent every minute planning. I texted Colin and Mitchell the video Vivian sent. Their responses were immediate and identical. We're with you. Whatever you need. I also called my lawyer, a guy Mitchell knew who specialized in family law and custody cases. The lawyer, after watching the video, was blunt. This is child abuse caught on camera. Austin, you've got grounds for emergency custody, restraining orders, the works. But Austin, if you go to that house and do something stupid, it hurts your case. Let me handle it legally. I will, I lied. Just have the paperwork ready. I wasn't going to do anything illegal. Not exactly. But I was going to make sure Johnny Hatfield understood the magnitude of his mistake. I landed in Houston at 11:30 p.m. Colin and Mitchell were waiting at the small private airfield, Colin's truck idling near the hangar. Colin Sampson looked exactly like he had in the Marines. 6'2", built like a linebacker, with close-cropped hair now going gray at the temples. He'd parlayed his military police experience into a successful private security business. Mitchell Bass was leaner, quieter, but no less dangerous. His work as a private investigator meant he knew how to dig up dirt and, when necessary, how to handle himself. We embraced like brothers because that's what we were. I ran Johnny Hatfield through my databases. Mitchell said as we climbed into the truck. Guy's a piece of work. 2 prior domestic violence arrests. 1 conviction that got pled down. Did 6 months 2 years ago for aggravated assault. Beat up his girlfriend's brother. Works as a freelance mechanic, but his income doesn't match his spending. I'm guessing he's dealing or running scams on the side. Any warrants? I asked. Not active, but he missed a court date for a traffic violation last month. It's minor, but it's something. What's the plan? Colin asked, pulling onto the highway toward my neighborhood. I stared out the window at the dark Houston suburbs rolling past. We show up. We get Liam somewhere safe. Then we have a conversation with Johnny about consequences. And Darlene, Mitchell asked carefully. My knuckles went white. My wife, the woman I'd loved for 7 years, the mother of my child, had stood there laughing while our son got hit. That betrayal cut deeper than anything Johnny had done. Darlene made her choice. Right now, I focus on Liam. The rest we'll figure out. We pulled up to my house at 12:47 a.m. It was a modest 3-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it had a yard and good schools. I've been proud of this house when we bought it 4 years ago. Now it felt tainted. The lights were off, except for a dim glow from the living room. Probably the TV. Johnny's black Dodge Charger sat in the driveway, like it belonged there. Vivian's light is on, Colin noted, gesturing to the house next door. I texted her, I'm here. Is Liam okay? Her reply came instantly. He's in his room, cried himself to sleep. That man is still there with Darlene. Be careful, Austin. We go in quiet, I said. I still have a key. Johnny doesn't know we're here yet. The advantage of surprise is ours. We approached the front door like we'd done 100 times in hostile territory. Smooth, silent, coordinated. I unlocked the door with barely a click. The living room opened up before us. Johnny sprawled on my couch, beer in hand, watching some action movie. Darlene was curled against him, half asleep. I stepped into the light. Get away from my wife. Johnny's head whipped around. His face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, then fear. He tried to jump up, but the alcohol slowed him down. Who the hell? Johnny started. Then he saw Colin and Mitchell flanking me, both men looking like they could rip him apart without breaking a sweat. You said 6 hours, I said quietly. I made it in 5. Where's my son? Darlene jerked awake. Austin, what are you? You're not supposed to be home until Thursday. I got an interesting video call this afternoon, I said, my voice deadly calm. Want to guess what I saw? Darlene's face went pale. Johnny stood up, trying to muster bravado. Look, man, this is between me and Darlene. You need to leave. Colin laughed, a sound without humor. You need to leave. That's funny. I called up the stairs. It's Dad. Come down here, champ. Feet thundered on the stairs. Liam appeared, rubbing his eyes, confused. Then he saw me and launched himself down the remaining steps. I caught him holding my son tight. Liam was crying again, but differently now. Relief, joy, safety. You came. You really came. I'll always come, I whispered. Always. I pulled back to look at him. Let me see your face. The bruise on Liam's cheek was livid, already turning purple. My jaw clenched so tight I heard my teeth grind. Pack a bag, I told my son. You're staying at Grandma and Grandpa's tonight. Uncle Colin will take you. I don't want to leave you, Liam said. I'll be right behind you. I promise. But I need to talk to your mother first. Uncle Colin, Uncle Mitchell, and me. We need to have an adult conversation, okay? Liam looked at Johnny, then back at me. Understanding passed between us. Okay, Dad. While Liam ran upstairs, I finally looked at Darlene. Really looked at her. She was wearing one of Johnny's shirts. There were wine bottles on the coffee table, cigarettes, and an ashtray. She'd never smoked before. How long? I asked. Austin, let me explain. How long? 2 months, she whispered. 2 months. I've been working myself to exhaustion on that platform, sending every paycheck home, thinking about my family every single day. And for 2 months, my wife had been playing house with a convicted abuser. And you let him hit our son. It wasn't, I didn't think he'd. You stood there and laughed, I said. My voice never rose, but somehow that made it more terrifying. You told Liam I was too weak to do anything about it. She's drunk, Johnny interjected. She didn't mean I'm not talking to you, I said, not even looking at him. Colin, once Liam's packed, take him to my parents. Mitchell, I need you to witness what happens next. Record it if necessary. Austin, what are you going to do? Darlene asked, fear creeping into her voice. What I should have done the moment I realized my family was in danger. I turned to Johnny. You and I are going to have that conversation now. Darlene, you have 2 choices. You can go upstairs and stay out of this, or you can watch. But either way, what happens next? You brought on yourself. Johnny tried one more time to act tough. You touch me, and I'll press charges. That's assault. Mitchell held up his phone, already recording. Funny thing about that. See, I've been documenting everything since we arrived. Austin hasn't touched you yet. But if he does, well, I've got video evidence of you hitting an 8-year-old boy. Self-defense laws get real murky when child abusers are involved, especially when said child abuser is trespassing in someone else's home. I'm not trespassing. Darlene invited me. Darlene doesn't own this house, I said. I do. It's my name alone. Always has been. You want to check the deed? The color drained from Johnny's face. He finally understood. He'd walked into a trap. A man he'd mocked as weak and distant was anything but. Colin came down the stairs with Liam and his overnight bag. Ready, little man? Liam hugged me one more time. Love you, Dad. Love you too, champ. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll get ice cream. After Colin and Liam left, the house fell silent except for the droning TV. I walked to the front door, locked it, then turned back to Johnny. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything. Every time you touched my son, every threat you made, every law you've broken while you've been playing house in my home. And Mitchell here is going to record all of it. You do that, cooperate fully, and maybe, just maybe you walk out of here with all your teeth. Johnny looked at Darlene for support. She was frozen, tears streaming down her face, but she said nothing. And if I don't? Johnny asked. I smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Then we find out if you're tougher than you think you are. But I should warn you. I spent 8 years in the Marines learning how to make people talk. I'm very, very good at it. Johnny's bladder, already stressed from fear and alcohol, gave up. A dark stain spread across his jeans. Mitchell chuckled. Well, that answers that question. Start talking, I said. And pray you tell me something useful enough that I don't make you regret every choice you've made in the past 2 months. Johnny started talking. Johnny Hatfield talked for 90 minutes straight. What started as defensive mumbling soon turned into a waterfall of incriminating admissions. Fear was a powerful motivator, and Austin Cahill, standing perfectly still, arms crossed, face carved from stone, was terrifying in his calm. It started small, Johnny said, his voice shaking. I'd tell him to clean up his toys, and he'd ignore me. So I'd grab his arm, not hard, just to get his attention. When was the first time you hit him? I asked. 3 weeks ago. He talked back to me about bedtime. I lost my temper. Pushed him into the wall. Mitchell's camera caught everything. Johnny described 6 separate incidents of physical abuse. Pushing, shoving, twice more hitting Liam hard enough to leave marks. Then came the psychological abuse. Constant belittling, telling Liam his father didn't care about him. Threatening to hurt his dog if Liam told anyone what was happening. And the stealing? I prompted because Mitchell's background check had shown purchases way beyond what Johnny could afford. Johnny hesitated. This was different. This was confessing to crimes against me, not just against Liam. I would suggest you keep talking, I said quietly, because my patience is running thin. I used Darlene's credit cards, Johnny admitted. The ones in your name. Bought some tools, some car parts, maybe $3,000 worth. I was going to pay it back. You were going to pay it back with what? Your drug-dealing money. Johnny's eyes went wide. I don't. Mitchell pulled up his phone, showing Johnny photos taken over the past 6 hours. Johnny meeting with known dealers. Money changing hands, packages being loaded into his trunk. I've got enough here to send you away for 5 to 10, Mitchell said casually. Dealing within 1,000 yards of school zone is a felony. And guess what's 3 blocks from his house? Johnny was sweating profusely now. What do you want from me? The truth, I said. All of it. And then you're going to help me make this right. What I learned during his interrogation was devastating. Johnny hadn't just abused Liam. He'd been systematically isolating the boy, trying to turn him against me. He'd been draining the family finances. And perhaps most shockingly, he'd bragged to friends about taking over my life. There's a guy, Johnny said, his voice barely above a whisper, named Tomas Kramer. He was interested in buying some information I had. What information? Information about the oil platforms, security schedules, layouts. He wanted to know when managers were on leave, which platforms were least secure. Johnny looked up at me. I told him I could get it through you. Through Darlene. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You were planning industrial espionage, sabotage, I didn't know what he wanted it for. He just offered good money. I looked at Mitchell, who was already texting someone. That's Homeland Security territory, Mitchell said, making a call to a contact at FBI Houston. He'll hear about this. Darlene, who'd been silent through everything, finally spoke up. Austin, I didn't know about any of that. I swear. The drugs, the stealing, the other stuff. I didn't know. But you knew he was hurting Liam, I said, my eyes meeting hers for the first time since the interrogation began. And you did nothing. I thought he was just being firm, setting boundaries. You were never here, and I needed help. Stop. My voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare make this about me being gone. I was working to provide for this family. You could call me anytime. Instead, you brought a monster into our home and let him terrorize our son. Darlene crumpled, sliding down the wall to sit on the floor, sobbing. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Officer Ramirez, this is Austin Cahill on Maple Street. I need to report multiple crimes: child abuse, credit card fraud, drug dealing, and possible terrorist intelligence gathering. I have video evidence and a full confession. Also, the suspect is in my living room right now. Johnny tried to stand. Colin, who'd returned from dropping off Liam, appeared in the doorway and shook his head slowly. Johnny sat back down. How did you? I started to ask Colin. Your dad wanted to make sure you were okay. Left Liam with your mom. Came back just in time, apparently. The police arrived 12 minutes later. 2 patrol cars initially. Then, after hearing about the drugs and the potential terrorism angle, 3 more, plus a detective. Detective Gregory Flowers was a 20-year veteran, skeptical by nature. But the evidence Mitchell and I presented was overwhelming. Mr. Cahill, Flowers said after reviewing the videos, I'm going to need you and your friends to come down to the station tomorrow for formal statements. But I'll tell you right now, this is one of the clearest cases I've seen. Between the video evidence and his recorded confession, Mr. Hatfield is looking at multiple felonies. Johnny was handcuffed and let out. As he passed me, he tried one last bit of bravado. You're going to regret this. I leaned in close. No, you're going to regret ever looking at my family. And here's the thing, Johnny. I'm just getting started. That confession, that's just the beginning. I'm going to make sure everyone you know sees what kind of coward hits 8-year-olds. I'm going to make sure your name is synonymous with weakness and shame. You want to take over my life? Congratulations. Now, I'm going to dismantle yours. Johnny's last shred of composure broke. He was crying as the officers put him in the patrol car. After the police left, I turned to Darlene. She was still on the floor, mascara streaking her face, broken and small. I've already contacted a lawyer, I said. First thing tomorrow, I'm filing for emergency custody and divorce. You'll get supervised visitation if, and only if, you complete substance abuse counseling and parenting classes. You'll also be investigated for child endangerment. Austin, please. 7 years. 7 years, I said. I loved you. I worked myself to the bone for you, for Liam, for this family. And you destroyed it. For what? For him. I was lonely, she sobbed. I was so lonely. So was I said. The difference is, I stayed faithful. I stayed committed. I kept my vows. I headed for the door. I'll be at my parents' house. Don't contact me directly. All communication goes through lawyers now. What about my stuff? Mitchell will supervise you packing tomorrow. You have until Friday to remove your belongings. After that, the locks change. As I walked out into the pre-dawn darkness, Colin and Mitchell flanking me, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not triumph, but emptiness. I'd won the first battle, but the war was far from over. And Liam, my brave, scared little boy, would carry these scars for a long time. You did good in there, Colin said as we drove toward my parents' house. Kept your head, got everything documented. Johnny's going away, Mitchell added. Between the abuse, the drugs, and that terrorism angle, he's looking at federal charges on top of state charges. Could be 20 years minimum. I stared out the window. It's not enough. Liam's going to have nightmares. Trust issues. He's going to wonder why his mother didn't protect him. So, we help him heal, Colin said simply. That's what fathers do. What brothers do. We help him heal. And we make damn sure nothing like this ever happens again. We pulled up to a modest ranch house in a quiet neighborhood. My father, Peter Walton, stood on the porch despite the late hour. Peter was 68, a retired firefighter, tough as nails. When he saw me, his weathered face cracked into a relieved smile. "Liam's asleep in your old room," Peter said as I approached. "Cried for about an hour, then exhausted himself. Your mother's with him." I hugged my father, something I hadn't done since I was a teenager. "Thanks, Dad. That man who hurt my grandson, he in custody?" "He is." "Good, because I was about 5 minutes from going over there myself." Peter looked at Colin and Mitchell. "You boys want coffee? I figure nobody's sleeping tonight anyway." We sat around Peter's kitchen table, drinking strong coffee and talking strategy. My mother, Kathy Walton, emerged from the bedroom around 4 a.m., still in her bathrobe. "He's sleeping peacefully now," she said, kissing my head. "My brave boy. Both of you." "I fail, Mom," I said quietly. "I should have seen this coming." "No," Kathy said firmly. "You trusted your wife. That's not failure. That's love. She failed you both. But you're here now, and you're fighting for him. That's what matters." As the sun rose over Houston, I made a list of everything that needed to happen. Custody hearing, divorce proceedings, changing all the locks, reviewing finances, securing my work credentials, talking to Liam's school and counselor. The list was daunting, but Austin Cahill had managed offshore oil platforms in Category 3 hurricanes. I'd led Marines through combat zones. I could handle this. My phone buzzed. A text from Vivian Hancock, my neighbor. "I've been documenting everything for weeks. Times, dates, photos. If you need it for court, it's yours. That boy deserves better." I texted back my thanks, then added her to my witness list. Around me, my family and brothers made their own calls, pulled their own strings, activated their own networks. Colin knew a child psychologist. Mitchell knew judges and social workers. Peter knew everyone in the neighborhood who might serve as character witnesses. By the time Liam woke up at 8 a.m., I had the foundation of a plan, not just to protect my son, but to ensure justice was served so thoroughly that Johnny Hatfield would regret ever hearing the name Cahill. Liam appeared in the kitchen doorway, small and uncertain. When he saw me, his face lit up. "You're really here," Liam said. I thought maybe I dreamed it. I scooped him up, holding my son close. "I'm here. I'm not leaving again. Never like before. Promise?" "I promise." "How about that ice cream I mentioned? For the first time in what felt like forever." Liam smiled. A real, genuine smile. As we headed out for breakfast, my phone rang. "Detective Flowers." "Mr. Cahill." We ran Johnny Hatfield's name through the system more thoroughly. Turns out there's a lot more to him than we initially thought. "You have time to come down to the station today? There's something you need to see." "I'll be there this afternoon." "Good. Because what we found, this is bigger than child abuse. A lot bigger." I hung up, my expression grim. Whatever Detective Flowers had discovered, it was going to change everything. But right now, my son needed breakfast and reassurance. The rest could wait for a few hours at least. I sat in Detective Flowers' office at the Houston Police Department, Liam safely with my parents and Mitchell by my side, as both friend and professional investigator. The detective slid a thick folder across the desk. When we arrested Johnny Hatfield, we searched his apartment and vehicle. Flowers began. What we found connects him to 3 other ongoing investigations, all of them serious. I opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, financial records, and incident reports. Johnny wasn't just an abusive boyfriend and small-time dealer. He was a node in a larger criminal network. He's been running a sophisticated identity theft ring, Flowers continued. Uses his mechanic work as cover. Gets access to people's cars. Clones their garage door openers and key fobs, sometimes their registration documents. Then his associates burglarize the homes when the families are out. They've hit 15 houses in the past 4 months. "Jesus," Mitchell muttered, scanning the documents. "It gets worse. That guy you mentioned, Tomas Kramer, he's a person of interest in industrial espionage. Kramer works for a firm that's been trying to undercut American oil companies by stealing proprietary information. Johnny was trying to use his relationship with your wife to access your credentials, your work schedules, security protocols." My jaw clenched. He was using my family as an access point. Exactly. And when we picked up Kramer this morning for questioning, he mentioned something else. Johnny had been planning to escalate. There was talk of staging an accident for you. Something on the oil platform that would look natural but clear you out of the picture permanently. The room went silent. Mitchell's face darkened. He was planning to kill Austin. We're still gathering evidence, but the communications we intercepted suggest, yes. Get rid of the husband. Console the widow. Take over completely. Johnny had massive gambling debts. Over $60,000 owed to some very bad people. Your life insurance policy would have solved that problem. I felt ice in my veins. I'd spent 2 months worried about my marriage while Johnny Hatfield was literally planning my murder. What about Darlene? Was she involved? Flowers shook his head. From what we can tell, no. She was a victim, too, in her way. Johnny targeted her specifically because she was vulnerable, isolated, resentful, lonely. Classic predator behavior. But she wasn't part of the criminal enterprise. That doesn't excuse what she did to Liam, I said flatly. No, it doesn't. Child Protective Services is opening an investigation. She'll face consequences. Flowers pulled out another document. Here's where it gets interesting for you. Several of Johnny's victims want to press civil charges beyond the criminal case. They're organizing a class action lawsuit. Your lawyer suggested you might want to join. Between the credit card fraud, the theft of your credentials, and the emotional damages to Liam, you've got grounds. Mitchell leaned forward. What's the criminal case looking like? Multiple felonies across state and federal jurisdiction. Child abuse, drug trafficking, identity theft, credit card fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and now industrial espionage. The DA is pushing for the maximum. We're talking 30 years minimum, possibly life without parole if the murder conspiracy sticks. I absorbed this. 30 years. Johnny would be in his late 50s before he saw freedom again. It should have felt like victory, but mostly I just felt tired. There's one more thing, Flowers said. We found burner phones with communications between Johnny and several other men. They're planning something, possibly targeting other families similar to yours. Oil workers, military families on deployment, long-haul truckers, anyone with a primary breadwinner who's gone for extended periods. They see them as easy marks. You need to stop them, I said immediately. We are, but it would help if you could identify any other families in your neighborhood or workplace who might fit the profile. Warn them. Help us catch these guys before they hurt anyone else. I thought about my platform crew. How many of them had spouses back home? Kids? How many were vulnerable to someone like Johnny? I'll make a list, I promised. And I'll reach out to my company's security office. If this is industrial espionage, they need to know. After leaving the police station, Mitchell and I grabbed lunch at a quiet diner. I pushed my food around my plate, not really eating. You thinking about Darlene? Mitchell asked. Thinking about how I missed it all, I admitted. The signs must have been there. Liam tried to tell me something was wrong in those video calls. Vivian tried to warn me. But I was so focused on work, on making money, on building our future, that I didn't see our present falling apart. That's not on you, brother. Darlene made her choices. Johnny's a predator. That's what they do. They're good at hiding. But my son paid the price for my absence, I said. I met Mitchell's eyes. That ends now. I'm done with offshore work. I don't care if I have to take a pay cut. I'm not leaving Liam again. Good call. And Austin, you're handling this the right way. Smart, controlled, legal. Some guys in your position would have killed Johnny last night. You got evidence instead. That's going to matter when the custody hearing happens. My phone rang. My lawyer, Patricia Flynn, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in family law and had a reputation for destroying bad parents in court. Austin, we're on the docket for Thursday, she said. Emergency custody hearing. The judge saw the video evidence and CPS reports. I'm 99% certain we'll get temporary full custody with supervised visitation only for Darlene. Maybe not even that if she doesn't start cooperating. What about the house? Legally yours. She has no claim to it. I've already filed the restraining order. She can remove her personal belongings under police supervision, but she cannot enter the property otherwise. I'm also pursuing charges for child endangerment. The DA is on board. Thank you, Patricia. Don't thank me yet. Darlene hired Bob Maloney. I winced. Maloney was a bottom-feeder lawyer who specialized in defending the indefensible, expensive, aggressive, and without scruples. Let him come, I said. We have video evidence of her laughing while our son got hit. She can hire Clarence Darrow himself, and it won't matter. After hanging up, I headed to my parents' house. Liam was in the backyard with Peter, throwing a baseball. The bruise on Liam's face was still visible, but the boy was smiling. That smile was worth more than any legal victory. "Dad," Liam called out. "Grandpa's teaching me a curveball." "Don't hurt your arm, champ," I called back, settling on the porch next to my mother. Kathy watched her grandson with a mixture of love and sadness. He had a nightmare during his nap. "Called out for you." "I'm here now." "But for how long, Austin?" Kathy asked gently. "I know you want to provide, but that boy needs his father present more than he needs a big house or fancy things." "I know, Mom. I've already decided. I'm transferring to office work. It'll be less money, but I'll be home every night." Kathy squeezed my hand. "Good, because that little boy out there, he's your real treasure. Not oil or money or anything else." That evening, I received a call from someone unexpected. Jesus Singleton, my supervisor from the oil platform. "Austin, I heard what happened. HR, fill me in. First, I'm sorry. Second, your job is safe. Take all the time you need. Third, we're making changes. This industrial espionage thing has the whole company in an uproar. Security is being overhauled, and we're implementing new policies for family support. I appreciate that, Jesus, but I've made a decision. I'm coming off offshore rotation. I need to be home with my son. I figured you'd say that. I already talked to the Houston office. They need a safety compliance manager. Desk job, Monday through Friday. Good benefits. 20% pay cut from what you make now, but you're home every night. Interested?" I felt a weight lift. "Very interested." "Good. You can start in 2 weeks. Use the time to get your family situation sorted. And Austin, you're one of the best managers I've ever worked with. Any company would be lucky to have you." After dinner, Peter grilled burgers and Liam ate too. I tucked my son in a bed in my old childhood room. The walls still had posters of baseball players I'd idolized as a kid. "Dad," Liam asked sleepily, "are you going to leave again? Back to the ocean?" "Not like before," I promised. "I'm going to work in an office here in Houston. I'll be home for dinner every night." Really? I made a big mistake, buddy. I thought providing for you meant being away. But you need me here, so I'm staying." Liam hugged me tight. "I love you, Dad. Love you too, champ." As Liam drifted off, I sat in the chair by the bed, watching my son sleep. The peaceful expression on Liam's face was something I hadn't seen in months. Tomorrow there would be more battles. Lawyers, court hearings, difficult conversations. But tonight, my son was safe, and that's all that mattered. My phone buzzed with a text from Colin. "Just got word. FBI picked up 3 more guys connected to Johnny's ring. You might have stopped something big." I replied, "Just protecting my family. But if we help protect others too, that's good." Before sleeping, I called Vivian Hancock. "Thank you," I said simply, "for watching out for Liam, for sending that video. You probably saved his life." "That sweet boy deserved better than what he was getting," Vivian said. "I'm just glad you came home when you did. Some men wouldn't have. Any man who wouldn't protect his child isn't much of a man. Well, if you need anything, meals, babysitting, someone to testify in court, you call me." "I mean it." I smiled. "Actually, there's one thing. When this is all over, Liam and I would like to take you to dinner to thank you properly." "I like that very much." As I finally laid down on my parents' couch, Liam had his old bedroom. I thought about the past 72 hours. I'd gone from a video call on an oil rig to dismantling a criminal enterprise. My marriage was over. My life was completely changed. But Liam was safe. And in the end, that's all that really mattered. Though I knew this wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Johnny Hatfield had allies, debts, and connections. And men like that didn't go down quietly. I would be ready. The custody hearing on Thursday was mercifully brief. Judge Miranda Grimes reviewed the evidence. Video recordings, Johnny's confession, police reports, CPS evaluations, and Vivian Hancock's detailed witness statement. Her face hardened with every page. "Mrs. Cahill," Judge Grimes said, looking directly at Darlene, "I've been on the bench for 15 years. I've seen a lot of bad parenting. But watching a mother laugh while her child is assaulted, she shook her head. I'm granting Mr. Cahill temporary full custody. Your visitation is supervised only, pending completion of substance abuse treatment, parenting classes, and psychological evaluation. Do you understand, Darlene? Looking haggard and broken, Darlene nodded. Her lawyer, Bob Maloney, tried to object, but Judge Grimes shut him down. Mr. Maloney, your client permitted a convicted domestic abuser to assault her child. She's lucky she's not in jail herself. Save your arguments for someone who might care. I felt Liam's hand slip into mine. My son had been allowed to attend, old enough to express his preference, young enough that the judge had been gentle with questions. When asked if he felt safe with his father, Liam had answered clearly. Dad's the only one who makes me feel safe. Outside the courthouse, Patricia Flynn was triumphant. That one went exactly as expected. Now, the divorce will take longer, but the custody battle is essentially over. She'd have to prove significant rehabilitation to get even partial custody back. What about charges against her? CPS and the DA are in discussions. Likely she'll face child endangerment charges. Probably plea down to probation and mandatory counseling. She's going to have a record, but probably won't do jail time. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Part of me wanted Darlene to face serious consequences. But another part, the part that remembered loving her once, just felt sad. She destroyed their family for what? Loneliness? Poor judgment? It seemed like such a waste. Colin met us at my parents' house with news. Johnny's arraignment was this morning. No bail. Judge considered him a flight risk and a danger to the community. DA is bringing the full weight down on him. How long until trial? Mitchell says probably 6 months for the state charges. Federal charges might take longer, but with all the evidence, his public defender is pushing for a plea deal. No deal, I said flatly. He goes to trial. I want everything he did on public record. The DA figured you'd say that. Over the next 2 weeks, I settled into a new routine. I started my new office job, the safety compliance role that Jesus had arranged. The pay cut stung, but being home for dinner with Liam every night was priceless. We established rituals, homework together at the kitchen table, cooking dinner as a team, reading before bed. Liam started therapy with Dr. Kendra Porter, the child psychologist Colin had recommended. The sessions were helping. Slowly, Liam was processing the trauma, learning that what happened wasn't his fault. I wanted therapy too. Dr. Porter recommended it, and I quickly realized I needed it. The guilt of not seeing the signs sooner. The anger at Darlene. The residual rage at Johnny. It all needed somewhere to go besides just bottled up inside. Mitchell continued investigating, and what he found was disturbing. Johnny's criminal network had targeted 17 families across Houston and surrounding counties. 3 other children had been abused. 2 homes had been burglarized. 1 family had nearly lost their life savings to identity theft. We're building a victims coalition, Mitchell explained over coffee. Everyone Johnny and his associates hurt. Class action lawsuit, coordinated victim impact statements. The works. The DA loves it. Makes the case bulletproof. I met some of the other victims at a support group Mitchell organized. There was Allison Williams, whose military husband was deployed when Johnny's partner befriended her and cleaned out their savings. Jose Ruiz, whose garage had been burglarized after Johnny repaired his car. Tammy Lowe, whose teenage daughter had been groomed by one of Johnny's associates. Hearing their stories, I realized how close I'd come to losing everything. If Vivian hadn't sent that video, if I hadn't come home when I did, how much worse could it have gotten? The FBI wants to talk to you, Mitchell said one evening about the industrial espionage angle. Apparently, Tomas Kramer was part of a larger foreign intelligence operation. Your credentials, your knowledge of the oil platforms, that was valuable to some very dangerous people. Set it up, I said. Whatever helps put these guys away. The FBI interview lasted 3 hours. I detailed everything I knew about platform security, what information Johnny might have access through Darlene, what vulnerabilities existed. The agents, serious men and women who didn't smile much, assured me that security protocols were being updated across the industry. Mr. Cahill, one agent said, if you hadn't come home when you did, if you hadn't documented everything so thoroughly, we might never have uncovered this network. You did good work. I just protected my family. Sometimes that's enough to change everything. 6 weeks after the initial arrest, Johnny Hatfield's legal team approached the DA with a plea deal. Guilty plea on all state charges in exchange for concurrent sentencing and testimony against Tomas Kramer and the larger network. The DA called me. "It's your call. With your testimony, we'd win at trial anyway, but the plea deal guarantees 25 years. With his record, you won't get parole, and his testimony could take down bigger fish." I thought about it. A trial would mean Liam testifying, reliving everything. It would mean months of delays, continued stress, constant reminders of the worst period of our lives. What does Liam's therapist say? Dr. Porter thinks avoiding trial would be better for Liam's recovery, less re-traumatization. Then take the deal. But I want to give a victim impact statement, and I want to be there when he's sentenced. Done. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for a Monday morning in November. I took the day off work. My parents watched Liam. No need for the boy to be there. But Colin and Mitchell accompanied me, along with several other victims. Johnny Hatfield looked different. Prison had stripped away his swagger. He was thinner, paler, his eyes downcast. When he entered the courtroom in shackles, he didn't even look up at the gallery. One by one, victims gave their statements. Allison Williams described how her marriage nearly fell apart because of the financial devastation. Jose Ruiz talked about no longer trusting anyone who works on his vehicles. Tammy Lowe described her daughter's nightmares and trust issues. It was my turn. I stood, walking to the podium. I prepared notes, but didn't need them. "Your Honor, my name is Austin Cahill. Johnny Hatfield assaulted my 8-year-old son. He manipulated my wife. He tried to steal my identity, my career, possibly my life. But more than that, he stole my son's sense of safety. Liam now has nightmares. He has anxiety. He struggles to trust anyone outside our immediate family. I'm a father. My job is to protect my child. And I failed because I trusted that my home was safe, that the woman I married would put our son first, that no one could hurt us there. Johnny Hatfield proved me wrong in the worst possible way. But here's what he didn't count on. Families are stronger than predators. Love is stronger than manipulation. And justice, when it finally comes, is patient and thorough. I don't want revenge. I want my son to heal. I want other families to be safe. And I want Johnny Hatfield to spend a very long time thinking about the lives he destroyed, the children he hurt, and the fact that all of it was for nothing. He gained nothing, lost everything. And that's exactly what he deserves. I returned to my seat. Judge Grimes reviewed the plea agreement, the evidence, and the sentencing guidelines. "Mr. Hatfield," she said, "I've rarely seen such a complete pattern of predatory behavior. You targeted vulnerable families. You abused children. You stole. You dealt drugs. You conspired with foreign agents. The plea agreement before me calls for 25 years. I'm accepting it with the following conditions. No parole eligibility for 20 years. Upon release, you will be registered as a child abuser, restricted from contact with minors, and under supervised probation for life. You will also pay restitution totaling $187,000 to your victims." She leaned forward. "And Mr. Hatfield, if you ever come near any of these families again, I will personally ensure you spend the rest of your natural life in prison. Do you understand?" Johnny's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, Your Honor. 25 years in state prison, concurrent with federal charges." Bailiffs removed him. As Johnny was led away, he glanced once at me. There was no defiance left. No tough guy posturing. Just fear. Outside the courthouse, I felt a weight lift. It wasn't closure. There was still the divorce to finalize. Years of Liam's healing ahead. The ongoing task of rebuilding our lives. But this chapter was done. Mitchell clapped me on the shoulder. "You did it, brother. Got justice for your son. We did it," I corrected. "Couldn't have done it without you and Colin. That's what brothers are for." My phone buzzed. A text from Liam. "Did it go okay, Dad?" "It went perfectly, champ. Justice won. See you at dinner. Love you, Dad. Love you too." As I drove home, I thought about the past 2 months. I lost a marriage but saved my son. I'd taken a pay cut but gained presence. I'd faced down a predator and won. And most importantly, Liam was healing. Slowly, With therapy and love and stability, the nightmares were becoming less frequent. The smiles were becoming more genuine. The trust was being rebuilt. That evening, Liam and I made spaghetti together, Liam's favorite. We ate at the kitchen table, talking about Liam's day at school, about the science fair project we were building together, about the weekend camping trip we had planned. Normal life. Regular moments. The things I had taken for granted before. Never again. As Liam headed upstairs to brush his teeth, I cleaned up the kitchen. Through the window, I could see Vivian Hancock at her yard, tending her garden. I made a mental note to invite her over for dinner soon. She'd been instrumental in saving Liam. Family by choice, if not by blood. Dad, Liam called from upstairs. Can we read 2 chapters tonight? Sure, champ. I headed upstairs, my heart full. The battle was won. The predator was caged. And most importantly, my son was safe, healing, and loved. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but hopeful. And for Austin Cahill, that was more than enough. 6 months later, spring arrived in Houston with its typical humidity and late afternoon thunderstorms. I stood in the backyard of our house. I kept the place after the divorce finalized, refinanced to remove Darlene's name completely. I watched Liam play catch with Colin's teenage son. The bruise on Liam's face was long gone. So was the haunted look in his eyes. He was laughing now, genuinely and often. Therapy was still ongoing, but Dr. Porter said Liam was making remarkable progress. Darlene had completed her court-ordered programs. She had supervised visitation twice a month, which Liam tolerated but didn't particularly enjoy. The bond between mother and son was fractured, perhaps permanently, but I didn't badmouth her to Liam. I let my son form his own opinions. Darlene had moved to San Antonio, gotten a job at a grocery store, and was apparently dating someone new. Some of my investigator, Mitchell, ever vigilant, had vetted thoroughly and found to be clean. I wished her well from a distance. Johnny Hatfield's trial for federal charges had resulted in additional years tacked onto his sentence. He wouldn't see freedom until he was in his 50s, assuming he survived prison. I didn't think about him much anymore. Johnny was irrelevant now. A problem solved. A threat neutralized. The class action lawsuit had settled. I received enough to cover Liam's college fund, and then some. Other victims got their restitution. It wasn't enough to undo the damage, but it helped. My new job was going well. I'd been promoted to regional safety director, a role that sometimes required travel, but always brought me home within 24 hours. Liam came first always. Dad, look, Liam shouted, making a diving catch. Did you see that? I saw it. You're getting good, champ. Vivian Hancock emerged from her house with a plate of her famous cookies. She'd become like a grandmother to Liam, always there with treats and wisdom and a listening ear. How's my favorite boy? She asked Liam. Great. Dad says we can go camping next weekend. Well, you have to tell me all about it when you get back. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not perfect. There were still challenges, still difficult days when Liam had nightmares or questions about why his mom had failed him. But we were healing together, building a new life on the ruins of the old one. Mitchell stopped by with groceries for a cookout. Colin arrived with his family. Even Jesus, my boss, dropped in with his wife. The backyard filled with laughter and conversation, with the smell of grilling meat and the sound of children playing. This was family, not just blood, but bonds forged through shared struggle and unwavering support. As I flipped burgers, Liam came up and hugged me from behind. You okay, champ? I asked. Yeah, just wanted to say thanks. For what? For coming home. For keeping your promise. For everything. I turned, kneeling to look Liam in the eye. Buddy, you never have to thank me for that. You, my son, protecting you, loving you, being here for you, that's not something you thank me for. That's just what fathers do. Liam nodded, smiling. Then he ran off to join the other kids. I watched him go. This resilient little boy who'd survived so much. Liam would be okay. We would be okay. The worst was behind them. And if any threat ever came for his family again, Austin Cahill would be ready. Always vigilant, always protecting, always there. Because that's what real fathers do. What would you have done in my shoes? How would you have handled that initial rage, or the difficult decision about Darlene? I truly want to hear your thoughts in the comments below.